I came here to save you.
The fortress is taken.
It is over.
Do not cite the deep magic to me, witch. I was there when it was written.
You're my only hope.
We shall fight on the beaches.
There will be days when we lose faith.
We band of brothers.
But take heart. Look around you. You're not in this fight alone.
I bid you stand! Men of the West!
Hello, this is Caleb with King's Advisors, and today we've got a pretty interesting story. Now, as Dan and I said in our intro video, we're both attorneys, and I personally have a very strong interest in intellectual property, or IP. Now, IP covers trademark, copyright, and patents. And today, we're going to talk about a trademark issue. So, about a year ago, Mariah Carey attempted to trademark 3 different marks: Queen of Christmas, Princess Christmas, and QOC. Now, before I get into the story, let me try to do a quick explanation of trademark law. I'm going to try to breeze over this and sort of give a 10,000-foot overview so we can all be on the same page. So in the United States, trademark law is grounded in the Lanham Act. A trademark is any word, mark, or logo that distinguishes a product. Trademark can attach to many different things like symbols, logos, colors, and even the packaging of a product and the design. There are 3 issues that arise when registering a mark: strength, likelihood of confusion, and use. Now, in order to determine the strength of the mark, in this case, Carey would need to show 2 things. 1, that the mark will need to be used in commerce, and the second is the mark must be distinctive. Now, the first one's easy to meet. Carey was planning on using those 3 different marks to sell products from her company, Lotions LLC. So, box 1, check. Now, the issue comes from the second box. A trademark will only be registered with the United States Patent and Trademark Office if it is distinctive. That is to say, if the mark is able to identify or distinguish the products that are using the mark from other products. Much like Apple's Apple distinguishes iPhones from Samsung Galaxy phones. When analyzing a mark's distinctiveness, there are 5 different categories a mark can be considered as: generic, descriptive, suggestive, arbitrary, and fanciful. The strength depends on how the mark is classified. Arbitrary and fanciful receive the most protection. An arbitrary mark is a word or words that mean a specific thing in English, but do not have that meaning when applied to the brand. Apple products is a good example of this. Fanciful marks are made up words like Exxon and Clorox. The law strongly protects fanciful marks. A mark that is deemed generic generally describes the category of merchandise the actual product would belong to. Marks like this are usually deemed too important to commerce to actually give them protection. Like computer for someone that sells computers. If that mark was allowed to be trademarked, then it would give the manufacturer an unholy advantage in the industry. If the mark is deemed descriptive, then it can acquire protection, but only if it's acquired secondary meaning. Now, secondary meaning can be confusing, so I won't go into detail here as it's the next category that we're looking at. Now, the marks that Carey was looking to trademark fall under the suggestive category. Unlike descriptive terms, a suggestive mark does not describe the product or service, but rather suggests a reference. This means the mark will usually require some thought to connect the mark to the products. These terms are considered distinctive and therefore eligible for protection because of that connection to the product. Just because imagination may be needed to make the connection, it does not mean the two are completely unrelated. Netflix is a great example of this. The term hints or suggests that the product is flicks, an older term for movies, on the net, an outdated term for the internet. So here we have Carey applying for a trademark for a suggestive mark. Now, Elizabeth Chan, a singer who records Christmas music all year round and was actually dubbed the Queen of Christmas in 2018 by the New Yorker, and later the following year released an album under the same name, opposed the mark, arguing that it was actually generic and no one person should be able to have a legal claim to that title that would prevent others from using it. And she has a point. See, with likelihood of confusion being a very important part of the trademark application, this is a big deal. Chan has a platform as the Queen of Christmas, as does Mariah Carey, as does Darlene Love, who 30 years ago, David Letterman christened the Queen of Christmas. So Chan's attorneys make a good point that there was essentially trademark bullying going on here by Mariah Carey and her company, trying to trademark such a big title, probably worth a lot of money over so many different fields, and one that she alone didn't use. There have been numerous royals of Christmas over the decades, and none have ever argued sole ownership of the title. Now, it's important to explain that Carey's legal team basically allowed the time to play out, so the judgment by the USPTO was a default judgment. This means that when Chan opposed the application, Carey never defended it. So it's as if the application lapsed. At this time, she's not said why and that she didn't oppose it. But if I was a betting man, I'd say her legal team probably knew that with the opposition by Chan, it would be unlikely to succeed. But I find it interesting that Mariah Carey attempted to do this, basically monetizing even further her success of All I Want for Christmas Is You. See, how trademarks work is you get a trademark over your mark, your logo, your whatever, and no one can use that mark in that industry. Now, sometimes the mark is protected outside of the industry if it's a very important mark, but usually it's industry based. For example, there is a secondhand furniture store down the road from where I live called Trader Joe's. Now, Trader Joe's is a trademarked mark for the company Trader Joe's. But this store, because it is not in the business of selling groceries like the grocery store Trader Joe's, they are able to keep their mark. Time also plays a big role in this. So this secondhand furniture store has been around for a long time. So first in use is a big deal. That's one of the reasons why Mariah Carey's use of an article published last year to show that she was the Queen of Christmas fails here, because Miss Chan has an article dated before that saying she's the Queen of Christmas. And that's actually a thing that she's used, whereas Mariah Carey hasn't. I hope y'all found that interesting. I've always been a very big fan of trademark law. When I took IP classes that I took in law school, I did very well and I really enjoyed them. And I've always found IP to be sort of both extremely to the point and just complicated enough to where new ways of looking at things is always a good thing. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe, click that bell, and give us a follow on Twitter at kingsadvisors_.